Whoa, whoa, getting crazy. Grab my knife, my chair. All right, let's get this dialed in a little bit. All right, what up, boys and girls? What up? What up? What up? Here we are. So behind me, 2023 TC250. Here to talk about the things that, first things that I like, things that I don't like, which I'll be up front, I don't think there's many, or if any. Things I don't like. Actually, I can think of one. And then some of the things, I've got some parts next to me that I'm gonna dig into and tell you guys about what I'm gonna do and the things that I've done so far and any other plans that I've got. So to get right into it, 2023 TC250 with fuel injection and electric start. Two of the craziest things to ever happen to a two-stroke, I think. The two-stroke's been carbureted its whole life, like forever. So for it to be fuel injected is unreal. It's unheard of, really. And Husky and KTM are really pushing the limits of the two-stroke and are continuing to innovate the two-stroke. And I think after riding it for the first time, one of the biggest things that I thought was how I could potentially be more competitive with the four-strokes on this bike, because I don't have that. When you have a carburetor, you just have like a slight, there's just a little bit of delay where, the fuel injection obviously is right there. So that was always like, you got to just always be in the right gear and in the right, power of the bike to have it perform its best. And I feel like the fuel injection is going to allow me to just be slightly lazier because whenever I get on it, it was like coming into a corner in third, and then like normally where I would have to like roll, clutch it, I could just like roll and it would be good. So that's one thing that I really like, is I felt like I was keeping up with other four-strokes more because the power is right there. And that's like one of the things that is a big difference in the two bikes, like carbureted versus fuel injected, is this bike has two throttle cables for the fuel injection, whereas the old one was just one old school throttle cable. And ultimately it makes it easy on this bike to twist the throttle, like super easy. That was one of the things that I noticed like while riding it, was there were certain sections where normally, like if I was riding, my arm would be like, you're pulling the slide up in the carb and really working to, hold it open, through a corner or whatever. Whereas this bike, I was like, it was so easy to twist the throttle. I noticed that like, I'll just give it more gas here because it was super easy to twist the throttle. And on top of it being super easy to twist the throttle, the fuel injection, I feel like took a lot of vibration out of the bars, which when I was watching other videos, there wasn't a lot of talk about how little vibration this bike has. Like compared to my 21, which I thought compared to like a YZ had very little vibration, this thing is even less, which makes it super easy to hold on to. I felt like I was getting arm pump due to the suspension, not due to vibration in the bars. Especially like revving it, just sitting there and like revving it. Normally you would like, and then you just feel it. You're like, oh, this thing vibrates. Whereas this thing, not at all. Very little vibration. And that ultimately, so like very little vibration on top of being able to twist the throttle super easy, made the bike just super fun to ride, because it was like, I was more focused on the riding and how I was riding than like holding on and like you know, coming into a corner and like, my arms, you know, kind of deal. But on top of that, this bike pulls so hard out of the corners. In the GoPro video I posted, I actually like kind of towards the end of the session where like I am getting tired and fatigued, I like come out of a corner and just like wheelied out of the corner because it just had so much power. I was in third gear and just like, I'm like, oh, whoa, a little crazy. So those are things that I really like. Somebody had asked me about the 10 millimeter difference in the suspension compared to my 21. I don't notice it. I like it. I like the way that it feels. I like the way that it tracks. I think it turns good, you know, just as good as the old bike. I'm not as particular about the frame and like how the characteristics of the frame are. I think that's just maybe due to lack of notice or maybe my ability, whatever it might be. I don't notice it as much, and I enjoy the bike. I enjoy like the stance of it. I'm 6'3", so that 10 millimeters wasn't like a big difference to me, but obviously I like it a lot, and I think it needs some fine tuning, right? You know, it's set up from the factory how it's set up, and so I was adjusting clickers, and as the day went on, it got better. I for sure was faster at the beginning of the day when the suspension or the track was like smoother, and when it got to the end of the day, the bike was definitely more work, more effort to control around the track. But that's just suspension stuff. I need to dial it in for my own needs, especially the shock. I have issues with the shock just because of my height and my weight. I'm super tall, but I'm also super skinny. So trying to find a sag height that keeps the bike level while also a spring that's meant for my weight can be a little bit challenging, but that just comes with getting my suspension set up and that kind of stuff. So it's really not that big of a deal. And I was fast on it at the beginning of the day, right? Like, and I was at the end of the day. It just, some of the bumps I was noticing, like, you know, coming through in the GoPro that I posted, like the corners on the sand track would get kind of whooped out and the bike would be kind of springy back on me, which is just adjusting in the suspension and tuning things in, you know, regular stuff that I'm expecting. And only getting 2 days on the bike before shoot, it's like 30 degrees out now. So it's I just didn't get enough time, right? But I enjoy it a lot. And I like the way that the bike feels in my legs and in between me, like the saddle and all of that. I really like that. Somebody else had asked me about the weight difference with the added things for the electric start and the other things, and I don't notice it. If it is heavier, it's not by much, and I feel like the fuel injection really makes up for that and keeps it light. I felt like I was kind of flicking it around and doing the things that I wanted without having, you know, to feeling like I was really moving it. So, heck, ton of good things about this bike. The only downside, I think, and this is the only thing I can think of, would be that the filter from my 21, like I have like 10 filters for the 21, and of course they changed the filter for the 23s and beyond, so I have to buy new filters, and like one of the things that I bought was a new wash cover, you know, just little stuff like that you got to spend money on. So I'm gonna have 30 filters hanging around because I've got an old bike and a new bike and whatever. So is that a downside? Not really, but it's just more money, you know, stuff like that. One of the other really cool things that I liked was when I got the bike set up, they said, so the bikes come locked from the factory now, where if it's not unlocked and you try to start it, it's gonna run bad because it's not unlocked. And this is a way for KTM to follow the bikes and see when they're sold exactly, you know, allow them to have better visibility into when their bikes are being sold and who's buying them and those kinds of things. So when I bought mine, the sales lady was like, you should go back there and watch this because you might need to know this down the road. I'm like, okay, cool. So we went back there and they got the seat off, and they had to, so she unlocked the bike from the factory, she unlocks it, and then they need to set up the power valve, because now on here, the power valve is electronic, so it does everything on its own, which is like insane. There's so many things on the bike that are just so different, like electronic wise, that I had never thought of, especially like the power valve. So I go back there and they've got this little thing. It's just a little short plug-in that plugs into the troubleshooting port, you could want to call it, diagnostic port, whatever you're going to call it. And so he's like, okay, so you got to twist the throttle 3/4 and then plug this thing in. And so he's doing it, you know, he's holding it and then he plugs it in, and you could hear the power valve like, and then it stopped. And they're like, all right, it's good to go. And I was like, what just happened? This is a 2-stroke. Why is it making noises without the bike even being on? Like, that is insane. And then they went outside, started it up, like, perfect, like perfect, right out of the, I mean, like first fire up. I'm like, what? Like, how is that even possible, bro? How is it possible? So that's like, you know, some of that stuff is just so wild. And then like looking at the carburetor boot, or where the carburetor is, which is now fuel injection, is just like this, like kind of almost like a rectangle-ish boot that just goes straight through. Couple more cords and things like that are just all in there. And like now on my 21, it was funny because like the subframe had all of these cutouts for the battery and things like that for other models, where now on this bike, everything is filled in under there. There's batteries, there's diagnostic ports, your CDI box, all that stuff is under the seat, and it's all filled in and whatnot. So it's pretty cool, actually. All of that stuff is really mind-blowing, and the technology that they've put into the bike is next level, really. It's unreal. So that kind of leads me to another thing, is some of the things on the bike that they did, like for wiring wise, they didn't fully like, so down here in the stator, there's like 2 wires that are going in, and the sheathing that goes around it stops like probably an inch, maybe 1.5 inches from where it enters into the stator cover. So you just have 2 open wires. And at first I thought that was something that came from my dealer doing that. But then when looking at like the test bikes and stuff like that, they all have it. It seems kind of weird for a dirt bike to just have exposed wiring, because, you know, rocks and things and sticks and whatever. I mean, there should be sticks on the dirt bike track, but, you know, people riding in different conditions are going to run into different things, and those seem to be easy spots where something could grab, snag. I've had weird stuff happen on other bikes that was like, how did you bend the fuel on off thing? No idea. Somehow I did. So stuff like that, where I think I'm gonna have to do some taping and cleaning it up a little bit. It's a little bit concerning, but not anything that's like oh my God. But it would suck to have like mid-moto look down, you know, after a crash or something, and be like, my bike won't start because this wire pulled out because it was exposed. So whatever. But other than that, oh, and then like, I think the top thing that I like about the bike, minus just like the looks of the bike, is the blue frame. The blue frame is unreal. Like when you set them side by side, so my 21 had the matte frame and this one's like a gloss frame, and you can see the difference in them sitting by side. And then when you get it out into the sunlight, the sparkles from the blue frame show, bro, that is next level. People are not like, other manufacturers are not doing things like that. And it's really like little stuff that makes the bike, you know, like my 21, people are like, oh dude, I like the little things that you did on there. That's really cool. And this is like, why would I get the frame painted if it's got this unreal paint job from the factory? So that's definitely a huge plus that I'm a big fan of. And it is, you know, just like when people are checking it out, like, oh, that's cool. That frame is dope. So those are the things that I like about the bike, and the things that I kind of didn't like, you know, whatever. But yeah, so 2023 TC250, this bike is unreal. I would say if you are looking at a 300 KTM, you know, 250 SX, 300 SX, 125 SX, or the TC 125 or TC 250, if if you were on the fence about it, because when we first heard about him, I told a buddy, shout out Couch Motocross, I was like, he's like, you think you're gonna get one? And I was like, bro, I think I'm all in. Like, I like what they're doing, and I you know, although it's a new bike and a new platform, I'm loving it. And after riding it, bro, hands down, dopest dope. This bike rips. It's like, that fuel injection is insane. It's like, how is it riding a fuel injected two-stroke? Like, literally, it's like riding a fuel injected two-stroke. The throttle is there, the response is there, just like on a four-stroke. So unreal, unreal. And if you're thinking about one, hands down, get one, because they are worth it. 100% worth the bike, worth the money, worth everything, because it's so revolutionary that you're going to be more competitive on a bike that's got fuel injection than a carburetor. I mean, hands down. And so I think this is going to, it might not be a slow, or it's going to be a slow start, but I think give it a year or two, these bikes are going to become really, really competitive. And so I look forward to getting into the build and the racing and the stuff like that. So you can see I've got parts here and stuff, but that's the next video. So thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. 2023 TC250, must have, must buy. I didn't go through all the specifications and stuff like that. You can find that online. But just from an average day guy, this bike is the bee's knees. So if you're thinking about one, definitely go get one. Thank you for watching JetBoy Co. On Instagram, JetBoy Co. On YouTube, JetBoy Co. You're here right now. Facebook, JetBoy Co. www.jetboyco.com. Buy some merch. I do shop services, things like that. Or just follow along for the 23 build. Next video is going to be what I'm doing on the bike and the things that I'm going through and things that I've done and what's to come with the bike. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Over and out.